here!
The pounding came so hard it rattled the glass in the front door. A woman's shrill voice cut through the quiet morning. "You! Out here, now!" she barked, clutching a sheet of paper like it was a weapon. Inside, Kevin Mercer, a tall black man with calm eyes, sat at his kitchen table finishing a cup of coffee. Across from him was his cousin, Sheriff Roland Mercer, who had stopped by early to talk about a family issue that couldn't wait. They'd been laughing only moments before, but the knocking turned that laughter into silence. Roland raised a brow. "You expecting company?" Kevin sighed. "Only trouble." He pushed back his chair and walked to the door. When he opened it, Evelyn Hartwell stood on the porch with two men behind her wearing wrinkled uniforms that looked straight out of a bargain bin. Their badges were shiny stickers pretending to be authority, and both had the swagger of kids playing cops. Evelyn planted herself like a general leading a charge. "You're standing on property that doesn't belong to you. Step outside right now or we'll deal with this the hard way." One of the fake officers puffed up his chest. "Sir, come on out. You're under investigation." Kevin stared, more amused than afraid. Investigation? He owned this land outright. His name was printed on every document and deed. Evelyn didn't have a clue who she was dealing with. She leaned toward her two sidekicks, whispering in that loud, performative way that ensured he could hear every word. "We'll rattle him a bit, get that truck towed and his gate locked. He'll come crawling by morning." Kevin's jaw tightened, but he didn't take the bait. He could feel Roland's steady gaze from inside, reminding him to stay cool. Evelyn wanted a scene. He wasn't giving her one. One of the imposters shoved a crumpled paper against Kevin's chest. "Official HOA directive," he announced. The page was laughable. Typos everywhere. No letterhead. Ink smudged. Evelyn crossed her arms and gave a smug half-smile. "Start packing, sweetheart. You won't last here long." Have you ever seen someone so entitled they thought they could decide who belongs in their neighborhood? What would you do if a neighbor tried to kick you off your own land with fake cops? Before we go any further, what city or country are you watching from right now? Drop it in the comments. We love seeing where everyone's tuning in from. And if you believe no bully gets to decide who belongs, smash that like button and subscribe to Story Arc, because sometimes the fight for home is the fight for respect. Kevin didn't answer. He simply stepped back and pulled the door wider. The sound of boots echoed on the wood floor as Sheriff Roland Mercer emerged from the kitchen, his badge glinting in the morning light. He fixed the trio with a cold stare. "Interesting," he said evenly, "because I don't recall appointing new officers in my county." The moment Roland spoke, Evelyn's expression cracked. Her confident smirk vanished like steam off hot pavement. The two imposters froze where they stood, their fake badges suddenly looking like plastic toys under the weight of a real lawman's stare. Evelyn blinked fast, trying to find her composure. "Oh, officer, thank heavens you're here," she blurted, words tumbling over themselves. "This man refuses to obey the homeowner's rules. He's trespassing. I called my private security to handle it." Roland's voice came out calm, but sharp enough to slice through her excuses. "Private security, huh?" He plucked the paper the imposter had pressed against Kevin's chest, glanced at it once, then tore it neatly in half. "This isn't an order," he said, letting the scraps fall to the porch. "It's a forgery. And since when does a neighborhood president get to assemble her own police department?" Color rushed to Evelyn's face. "He's lying," she snapped, pointing at Kevin like an accusation could erase her mistake. "He doesn't even own this land. He's squatting here illegally. Arrest him already!" Roland tilted his head slightly, one brow lifting as if amused by a bad joke. "Kevin?" he said, without looking away from her. "You got your paperwork handy?" Kevin nodded, stepped back into the house, and opened a drawer. He returned with a thick folder and laid it on the dining table by the door. "Deeds, maps, everything signed and sealed," he said evenly. The sheriff flipped through each page, nodding as though confirming something he already knew. "Looks ironclad to me," he said finally, closing the file with a deliberate snap. Then his gaze moved back to Evelyn, his tone hardening. "So let me understand this. You brought counterfeit officers onto his property, tried to evict a lawful homeowner?" The imposters exchanged panicked glances. One of them shuffled backwards, sweat glistening on his temple. They knew the game was collapsing. Evelyn's breathing quickened, but she still tried to sound in control. This community is under my supervision, she insisted, her voice shaking. He doesn't fit in here. People like him never do. Roland's expression darkened. His hand drifted toward his belt. People like him? He repeated slowly, the air tightening around every word. The room fell silent. Even the birds outside seemed to pause. Evelyn realized too late she'd stepped into something far more dangerous than an argument over property lines. Roland's voice was low now, controlled, hacked, but each word hit like a hammer striking steel. Say that again, he murmured, eyes locked on Evelyn. Her mouth opened, but no sound came. For the first time, her bravado faltered. Even her two hired fakes stood frozen, their cheap badges gleaming faintly under the porch light as reality started to sink in. People like him, Roland repeated, taking a single step forward. You sure you understand who you're talking about? Evelyn swallowed hard, trying to muster confidence she no longer had. He's just some black nobody with a truck and an old house, she sneered, though her voice trembled. This neighborhood doesn't need his kind dragging down property values. Kevin stayed silent, watching her unravel. His cousin didn't raise his voice, didn't even look angry, just steady, lethal calm. Roland's shadow stretched across the porch as he moved closer. That nobody, he said, each syllable deliberate, is a decorated combat veteran, a man who's earned more right to this soil than most will ever know, and you just marched onto his land with two impersonators pretending to be law enforcement. Evelyn's two accomplices broke instantly. One of them stammered, We didn't know. She told us it was legal work." Their faces drained of color as they yanked the phony badges from their shirts and dropped them onto the ground like they were burning hot. Then they turned and ran, stumbling down the driveway, boots slapping against the pavement. Evelyn's shaky authority shattered right along with them. She stepped back, clutching that useless paper like it might save her. This is a misunderstanding," she stammered. "I was only trying to keep order here. You can't prove anything." Roland slipped a small black device from his vest pocket. When he pressed the button, Evelyn's own voice filled the air, crisp, recorded, and damning. "We'll rattle him, tow his truck, and lock the gate. He'll come begging by tomorrow." Her knees nearly gave out. "You set me up," she hissed, her voice trembling between rage and panic. Kevin finally spoke, his tone cool and steady. "No, Evelyn," he said quietly. "You set yourself up." Her face twisted, half red from fury, half pale from fear. Evelyn's eyes darted between Kevin and Roland, like a cornered animal searching for an escape route that didn't exist. "You can't use that recording," she shouted, voice cracking under the weight of her own panic. "It's illegal. It won't hold up in court." Roland didn't even blink. With slow precision, he clipped the recorder back onto his vest. "That audio came from my body cam, ma'am," he said evenly. "Perfectly lawful, and now it's evidence." Evelyn's breath hitched, her whole frame trembling. "Evidence? For what?" I I was only doing my job." Roland took a step closer, his tone dropping to a deadly whisper. "Impersonating an officer, criminal trespass, harassment, fraud. You want me to keep listing?" Evelyn's composure shattered. She flung her hands up wildly. "No, you can't do this to me. I run this community. Without me, it all falls apart." Kevin let out a dry, bitter laugh, the first hint of emotion since the confrontation began. "No, Evelyn," he said, voice deep and steady. "They're not depending on you. They're afraid of you. Big difference." Roland gave a curt nod. "That's enough. Ma'am, you're under arrest. You can explain yourself to a judge." Evelyn's last ounce of pride broke loose in a fit of hysteria. She spun toward the growing crowd at the end of the driveway, neighbors drawn by the shouting. "You all know me," she cried, desperate now. Tell him I'm in charge here." But no one spoke up. The silence was heavy. A few people shook their heads. One man muttered loud enough for everyone to hear, "About time someone stopped her." Evelyn's eyes widened, disbelief turning to despair as the empire she'd ruled with fear crumbled in a single moment. Roland reached for his cuffs, the faint metallic click slicing through the air. Evelyn stumbled backward as the cuffs locked around her wrists. "This is illegal," she screamed. "You'll regret this. I'll sue the sheriff's department. I'll sue all of you." Roland didn't so much as flinch. Guiding her down the steps, he said calmly, "Ma'am, the only place you're going is the county jail." Neighbors followed at a distance, murmuring among themselves like witnesses to justice finally delivered. If you believe every bully eventually meets their reckoning, Hit that like button and subscribe to Story Arc, because when the cuffs close and the crowd watches in silence, that's justice finally finding its voice.